Congratulations, you have been hired for a night shift as a Lighthouse Automation Specialist at the Harrowpoint Lighthouse on the northern coast. Your job is to install and calibrate automated navigation systems in this abandoned structure and follow the rules, especially rule number 7. The lighthouse has been unmanned since 1987, but the beacon must be modernized. You'll be working alone through the night, replacing the old mechanisms with new automated systems. Management sent you a list of rules. They said these rules are based on reports from previous contractors. Read them carefully. Rule number 1. Never look directly into the beam when the lighthouse rotation completes its 7th cycle each hour. At exactly 42 minutes past every hour, the light will pause for 3 seconds before continuing. During this pause, previous technicians reported seeing shapes moving inside the beam itself, silhouettes that don't match anything on the rocks or water below. These shapes have been described as tall and unnaturally thin, with limbs that bend at wrong angles. One contractor wrote in his incident report that he made eye contact with something in the beam. He refused to elaborate further and quit the next morning. The company psychologist noted he wouldn't stop washing his eyes with bottled water. Keep your head down during the 7th cycle. Focus on your equipment. The shapes in the light can't affect you if you don't acknowledge their presence. Whatever you do, don't let them know you can see them. Rule number 2. If you hear scratching sounds coming from inside the walls, immediately go to the equipment room on the 2nd floor and turn on the emergency ventilation fans to maximum power for exactly 9 minutes. The scratching will start slow, almost gentle, like fingernails dragging across the interior stone. Then it becomes frantic, dozens of hands clawing simultaneously, moving up through the walls toward whatever floor you're on. The previous lighthouse keeper's final log entry mentioned the scratching. He wrote that he saw them, the ones doing the scratching, emerging from cracks in the stone during a storm. He described them as former keepers, but wrong, their fingers worn down to bone, their jaws hanging slack, their eyes reflecting the lighthouse beam like animals. The ventilation fans create a specific frequency that drives them back into the spaces between the walls. Don't turn off the fans early. Don't turn them off late. Exactly 9 minutes. The last contractor who ignored this rule was found unconscious with scratches covering every exposed inch of his skin. He couldn't explain how it happened. He was alone. Rule number 3. Do not open any of the locked storage closets marked with red paint, no matter what sounds come from inside them. There are 4 closets throughout the lighthouse, each sealed with a red X painted across the door. During your shift, you will hear things from behind those doors. Soft weeping at first, then pleading voices calling for help, claiming they've been trapped, begging you to let them out. The voices will know your name even though you've never been here before. They will know details about your life, about your family, about fears you've never spoken aloud. This is how they test you. One maintenance worker opened a red-marked closet 3 years ago. The investigation report stated he was found sitting in front of the open closet, staring inside, unresponsive. When they finally moved him, he had aged decades in a single night. His hair was white, his skin thin as paper. He died in the hospital 2 days later, constantly whispering that they were still in the closet, waiting, patient, hungry for company. The closets must remain sealed. Whatever is inside has been there since before the lighthouse was abandoned. Rule number 4. Between 2 and 3 a.m., the lighthouse foghorn will sound 3 times even though it has been disconnected for 15 years. When this happens, you must go to the topmost observation deck and watch the water until the 3rd horn fades completely. Do not go inside until the sound is gone. Stand there no matter the weather, no matter the cold, and watch. You're looking for a ship that isn't there, a phantom vessel that appears in the fog exactly halfway between the 2nd and 3rd horn blast. The ship is old, wooden, with torn sails and a deck that's empty except for one figure standing at the bow. That figure will be looking directly at the lighthouse, directly at you. Previous workers described the figure as wearing a keeper's uniform from the 1800s, but its face is obscured by shadows that move independently of any light source. If you're not on the observation deck watching when the 3rd horn sounds, the figure appears inside the lighthouse instead. The last person who stayed inside during the foghorn sequence reported feeling breath on the back of his neck for the remainder of his shift. He found wet footprints following his path through the lighthouse, Saltwater pooling where nothing should be walking. Rule number 5. The logbook in the keeper's quarters must be read, but only the entries marked with a blue check mark in the margin. There are 73 entries spanning from 1979 to 1987. Each marked entry describes something the keeper witnessed, protocols they developed, warnings they recorded. Read these carefully because they contain information that might keep you alive. However, there are other entries, hundreds of them, written in the same handwriting but without the blue marks. Do not read these unmarked entries. Do not even let your eyes drift across the words. The unmarked entries were written by Keeper Matthews during his final 3 months at Harrowpoint. Other keepers who served before him added the blue check marks to entries written before Matthews started to change. The unmarked entries describe things that haven't happened yet, things that are waiting to happen, things that want to happen. A company archivist read one unmarked entry out of curiosity. He refused to discuss what he read, but he submitted his resignation that day and moved to a landlocked state. The blue marked entries are warnings. The unmarked entries are invitations. Know the difference. Rule number 6. If the temperature in any room drops suddenly and your breath becomes visible, light exactly 3 candles from the emergency kit and place them in a triangle around yourself. Remain inside the triangle until your breath is no longer visible, no matter how long it takes. The cold spots move through the lighthouse on a pattern that no one has successfully mapped. They can appear anywhere at any time, but they always announce themselves the same way. First the temperature plummets, then frost forms on the metal surfaces. Then you'll feel the presence of something massive and invisible occupying the space around you. The candles create a boundary that this presence cannot cross, but the boundary only works if you stay perfectly still inside the triangle. Don't speak, don't move, don't even shift your weight. A security guard broke this rule last year. He panicked when the cold lasted over an hour and stepped out of the triangle to check his phone. The footage from his body camera shows him stepping out, then immediately stumbling backward as if struck. He's screaming, but his voice makes no sound. He's looking at something the camera can't capture. The footage cuts off after 14 seconds. He was found hypothermic in a room where the temperature was 70 degrees. He hasn't spoken since. Stay in the triangle. Rule number 7. At exactly 3:33 a.m., you will hear the lighthouse door open and footsteps climbing the spiral stairs. These are the keepers who never left. There will be 4 sets of footsteps, each with a distinct rhythm. The first walks with a limp, dragging something heavy. The second moves quickly, frantically, like it's searching. The third climbs slowly, stopping on each landing for exactly 10 seconds. The fourth doesn't walk at all, it crawls, nails scraping against stone. When you hear them, you must continue working as if nothing is happening. Do not acknowledge them. Do not look at the stairway. Do not speak. They will pass by your location, moving through the lighthouse like they're performing their old duties, checking equipment that no longer exists, calling out to colleagues who are long dead. You may catch glimpses of them in your peripheral vision. Grey shapes that move like men but don't quite have the right proportions anymore. Their faces are visible for just a moment, frozen in the expressions they wore when they died here, when something claimed them one by one over the course of that final year. If you acknowledge the dead keepers, if you make eye contact or speak to them, they will remember that they're not supposed to be here. They will remember that they're supposed to be somewhere else. And they will try to take you with them because they don't want to go back alone. Rule number 8. The mirrors in the lighthouse are covered with cloth for a reason. Do not remove these coverings. Do not look into any reflective surface larger than your palm. The lighthouse has 12 mirrors, each one covered with black fabric that's been nailed into the wall around the frame. If you need to see your reflection, use your phone screen or a small compact. The large mirrors show things that aren't there, or more accurately, they show things that are there but exist in a frequency just outside normal perception. A technician removed one covering 2 months ago, curious about why a functional mirror would be hidden. He stared into it for several minutes before his colleague found him. He was speaking to his own reflection, having a conversation, but his reflection was responding with words that didn't match his lips. The reflection was saying things he wasn't saying, making promises he wasn't making, and worst of all, the reflection was slowly doing something the man wasn't doing. It was smiling. A wide, ecstatic smile while the man's actual face showed only confusion. They covered the mirror again quickly, but the technician kept insisting his reflection was still talking to him, even in the dark, even through the cloth, still making promises about what would happen if he came back. He drove his car off a cliff 3 weeks later. The covered mirrors stay covered. Rule number 9. You will find items that don't belong to you appearing in your work area. A coffee mug still warm. A jacket that isn't yours draped over a chair. A pair of work gloves that fit your hands perfectly but that you've never seen before. These items belonged to previous workers at the lighthouse, both living and dead. Do not use these items. Do not touch them. Do not move them. Simply work around them as if they're part of the permanent fixtures. The items are tests, attempts to establish a connection between you and whatever is trying to manifest in this place. Each item carries an imprint of its owner, and by using them, you invite that imprint to overlap with your own presence. A contractor wore a jacket he found during his shift because the lighthouse was cold. He said the jacket fit perfectly, felt broken in, comfortable. By morning, other workers reported that he seemed different. He knew things about the lighthouse he shouldn't know. He mentioned events that happened before he was born. He spoke about the view from the observation deck during a storm in 1983. He described the taste of the coffee the old keepers used to make. 3 days later, he didn't show up for work. They found him at the lighthouse even though it was his day off. He was wearing the keeper's uniform from the display case in the museum in town. He told them he had always worked at Harrowpoint. He couldn't remember his real name. Let the items be. They're bait. Rule number 10. Before you leave at dawn, you must climb to the lamp room and say thank you to the lighthouse. Say it clearly, say it out loud, and mean it. This isn't superstition. This is payment. The lighthouse has tolerated your presence through the night. It has allowed you to work, to install your modern systems, to alter its original purpose. In return, it expects acknowledgement. The lighthouse is more than stone and metal. It has stood here for 147 years, watching, waiting, collecting the memories and fears and final moments of everyone who served within its walls. It has become something aware, something that understands itself as a threshold between the land and the sea, between the living and whatever is waiting in the dark water. Show respect. Express gratitude. Make it clear you understand the privilege of surviving your shift. The one worker who forgot this final rule made it all the way to his car before sunrise. They found his vehicle the next day, empty. Keys still in the ignition, driver's door open. His phone was on the seat. His last text message, unsent, read only, "It followed me." He has never been found. Thank the lighthouse before you leave. It's listening.